Welcome back. So, I know with everything going on right now, there's been a heightened sense of urgency to advocate for yourself, especially in healthcare. So, the video that I want to discuss today is about advocating for yourself effectively, because I know many people have either heard of horror stories or actually have personally experienced horror stories of just bad experiences either in the ER or during their hospital stay. Many people express that they don't feel heard. They have concerns. They don't feel like everything's being taken care of appropriately. So I'm just going to provide a list of basics, and hopefully this is helpful for your next hospitalization or your encounter in the ER. Thank you. Stay tuned. I can feel your heart. All right, so let's get into it. I made a board for everybody so that if you want to rewatch this, pause it, whatever. Can y'all see this? Excuse my ring light there. But this is just a board to kind of help guide you so that you know exactly what to ask for. Because trust me, I've seen lots of it. So, okay, I'm going to give a scenario. Let's say you go to the ER and you have back pain. Instead of letting them tell you, we're going to give you some ibuprofen and send you on your way, say, no, check out my electrolytes, and they'll say, okay, we'll do a basic. Tell them, no, you want a comprehensive. You want a CMP. That checks out your electrolytes, yes, but it will also let you know about your kidney function and your liver function. Because oftentimes, back pain can sometimes mean you have some issues going on with your kidneys. So it costs nothing to the provider to ask for that extra tack on. Say, no, I don't want the basic, I want the comprehensive. Get your money's worth. Okay, so let's say you go to the ER or your family doctor, whoever. I know people generally have a better relationship with their family doctor. Now, let's say you go to the ER and you're feeling short of breath, and you've been tired lately, and you're like, oh my God, do I have coronavirus or what's going on with my body? So that's when you say, can I please just have blood work done? That doesn't mean anything to a provider because we do tons of blood work. Tell them specifically you want a CBC with diff. Why do you want the differential? The differential will tell you, okay, you've been tired because you have anemia. That means your hemoglobin is low. Hemoglobin is the oxygen carrying portion of the blood, which means that you're not getting enough oxygen, you're not getting enough blood flow. And so if your hemoglobin is low, they'll say, okay, you just have possibly iron deficiency. There's so many types of anemia though, but that's a video for another day. So at that point, if your hemoglobin is low, say, okay, well, let's see if it is iron deficiency. At which point, please ask for an iron, a TIBC, and a ferritin level. Running all of those along with your CBC will determine if you actually have iron deficiency anemia or another source of anemia. And so, like I said, we'll discuss anemia another day, but so many things get overlooked because nobody asks for the differential or for these iron studies. And so, what else can a CBC with differential tell you? If you have an infection, so your white blood cell count, that's the WBCs. If you have an infection, those will be elevated, but it doesn't say what is elevated if you don't have the differential. I'm trying to tell you. So that's why I'm saying it is so important to make sure you know why you're asking for these specific tests, because of what they can actually tell you. Do not let them do the basic test or the minimum. Ask for these things in particular. So let's move along. And so your CBC with differential will also let you know, are you bleeding somewhere? Are your platelet counts? That's what makes your blood, like if you get a paper cut and you notice that you can apply pressure and the bleeding stops, you know your platelets are okay. Now let's say you accidentally, I don't know, rip a fingernail off. You can apply pressure, the bleeding is okay. Now let's say you're getting all kinds of really weird bruises all over your body and you're like, but I didn't even hit anything. And you go and you see that the platelet count, let's say normal is 150,000 to 450,000. Let's say your platelet count is like 30,000. That will explain why you're getting these really weird bruises, because your body's not clotting like it needs to. And that is very important, because if it keeps getting lower, that will lead to possible brain damage, because you could hemorrhage and all that other jazz. You could perforate something and bleed out. And so it's very important. And then at that point, y'all know I work in hematology. If your platelet count is low, you'll want to figure out why it's low. Again, I can talk about this all day, but sometimes your platelet count or your blood numbers are low because you've probably been drinking too much alcohol, but people don't want to discuss that. We can get into that another day, and I can break it down for you. And so let's see. Now, along with this differential, your blood numbers can also tell you if you're having a reaction of some sort. So let's say it's pollen season. There's something called eosinophils. That's basically the allergy blood level. Those may be heightened because you didn't know that you were allergic to the pollen in the town, you know? So it could be something that simple as fixable. But again, get your differential. And one thing I will tell you, as long as you're sitting there in the ER and they have those labs come back and they say, oh, everything's fine. But you're like, okay, but what does fine mean? Am I on the high side of normal or the low side of normal? Ask for a copy while you're still there, because once you leave, they'll say, oh, you'll have to go through medical records. But y'all just sat here and took my blood. So make sure that you ask for a copy and a printout. And so y'all can inbox me with questions once you get your printout, or go to a medical professional where you can say, hey, what does this look like to you? Please explain. You see what I'm saying? So at least if you ask for these certain tests, you can get a copy of them. Even if, like I said, even if you don't understand, you can have somebody look at it. Now, let's say you twisted your ankle and they say, oh, again, the favorite thing to do, let's give you some ibuprofen and we're going to send you home in this air cast. They'll probably do just an x-ray. And at that point, you're like, man, okay, whatever. Now let's say 2-3 weeks go by and you're still having really, really bad ankle pain. And you're like, I don't think I just twisted this. Something might be wrong. I know the x-ray didn't show anything. And so that's when you want to ask for a CT scan with contrast of that area. And I'm going to explain to you the difference between the two. Now let's say when you first twisted your ankle, they said, oh, we'll do an x-ray. The x-ray just shows the bone structure, and it says, oh, all the bones in your ankle are fine, we don't see anything. And let's say you have shortness of breath. Okay, we'll do a chest x-ray. Oh, it looks like we found some fluid in your lungs. Let's figure out why. They'll probably give you something like Lasix to get rid of it. Or they do an x-ray and, you know, sometimes that can show pneumonia or any other form of infection, sometimes TB. So why do you want the CT scan with contrast? That will show the actual anatomy of the area. So, okay, the x-ray failed you on that twisted ankle, but this CT with contrast of the foot, you got a hairline fracture right in the bones where that x-ray missed, because it doesn't show all of those areas that specific. It just gives a general survey. And so the CT with contrast is more focused. It sends that contrast dye through that area so that all of those structures can be properly assessed. And that is very, very important. And so the CT with contrast, do not waste your time getting a CT without contrast. If you're allergic to the contrast dye, there's a way. They can give you the Benadryl and the steroids and all of that, and then they can flush you out. I'm telling you, it can be done. And so the CT with contrast also shows masses, lymph nodes. Anybody that's like, I've been coughing for 3 months, something's not right. I stopped smoking 20 years ago, so I know it's not anything smoker related. You get a CT with contrast and there's this tiny mass, let's say it's about 2 centimeters in your lung, and you're like, then you'll want to get it followed up on. So that's why it's important to get it with contrast. There are no doctors that will look at your lungs without contrast, because it's just a waste of time for everybody. So make sure if they're wanting to do imaging, contrast. Trust me on that. And now, let's see. Oh, and the fluid abnormalities. That's another thing. It may show a random amount of fluid either in your lungs, around the heart, in your intestines. And it can, so it will help either guide. There's even a way to do the CT, and they can like help drain fluid or the fluid buildup. Sometimes, depending on how the fluid is sitting, it will determine whether it's inflammation or infection. So that's also helpful. And then another thing that I felt was important to ask, because there was a young lady, I shared this on my Facebook page. There was the young lady who said she took her 19-year-old son to the ER because he had passed out. And she was like, he's 19, he's black. No, my baby doesn't do drugs. Like, we have that type of relationship. I know him. Please stop being fixated on thinking that he's taking drugs. I know my son. Let's move on. There's no reason why a 19-year-old, healthy, athletic black boy should be passing out. Y'all, they said, oh, the toxicology screen. She like, I knew it would come back clean. That's not our focus. Why did he pass out? Oh, he's young. It may have just been X, Y, or Z, and they sent him home. No. I don't care if you're 0 to 150. There is no reason somebody just passes out. And at that point, you need to get your heart checked out, get an EKG, as well as an echocardiogram, get a CT brain with contrast, because we need to know what is going on anatomically. Again, this young man ended up dying of a heart condition, which could have been prevented had he gotten an EKG and an echocardiogram and followed up with a specialist. Simple as that. It does not take any extra time out of anybody's schedule to do their job. Ask for the necessary testing. I'm trying to tell you, you are your best advocate. There is no reason why anybody should be getting dismissed or feeling like they're being dismissed. So that is why I've been so passionate about making sure that you have the answers that you need. You know exactly what to ask for. And sometimes it doesn't matter if the provider's ego is in the way. I don't care if they're like, oh, what you've been researching. I sure have. It's okay to be empowered. It's okay to be knowledgeable, because at the end of the day, you have to live with the consequences of somebody else's decision if you're not providing your empowerment and your knowledge as well. So it's okay to work with the provider as a team. It is, do not sit there and play dumb just to make them feel better. Because again, they're going to get paid regardless, and you're going to get billed through insurance regardless. I don't care who's paying for it. But y'all don't want to get me going on my high horse. So let me tell you the difference between an EKG and an echocardiogram. An EKG is just where they do the 12 leads, they stick those patches on you. That only shows the rhythm, the rate, and it also helps to detect heart attacks. 9 times out of 10, they will put an EKG on you while you're in the ER, depending on what your presenting symptoms are. And so again, if you're passing out, ask for an EKG. Again, it's just a couple of stickers, not invasive at all. Echocardiogram will help determine the blood flow through your heart, through all the chambers. It'll detect blockages. It'll detect what we call a pericardial effusion or window. And so all of that is important as well. And sometimes, well, 9 times out of 10, 10 times out of 10, it will detect heart failure, because that's what we call the cardiomyopathy, and your heart is a muscle. If your muscle is not working properly, guess what? Blood can't get through properly, which means that's what we call heart failure. And so all of that is backing up into you, and you'll see these people sometimes with swelling in their legs. That's why they always say, oh, it's my heart condition. As for what we call a BNP, beta natriuretic, BNP. They make these terms so difficult for no reason. But anyways, if the BNP is elevated, that will definitely let them know that you have, that you're overloaded on fluid. And again, they'll throw some Lasix at you, and they'll make sure that you're keeping your feet elevated. And they'll probably put you on a diet restriction of some sort. So again, I'm trying to keep that as simple and to the point as possible. I plan to break down a lot more in the future. So y'all just send me your questions, email me. If we're Facebook friends, inbox me. I answer everybody. And so I have no problem helping to empower you or answer any questions, because again, this day and age, it is so important to be your own advocate. We have to stop letting ourselves be the examples. We have to start making sure that we're being heard fairly, intentionally, and equally, okay? So again, I am so happy that I got to bring that to you guys. It was just a simple, the basics. I'm going to show this board one last time so that you know I have broken down what the test name is and what it will tell you. And again, please excuse my ring light showing on there. So you all have a great day, and feel free to watch this, pause this, share this, whatever you need. Again, my goal is just to help you out and help somebody else. Have a great day.